On February 19th, 2022, I spoke with Dave Reed, the vinyl record guru, the mastermind behind Noise Agony Mayhem Records, Moths and Locusts, Anunnaki, and Hombre Al Agua, just to name a few. Dave is involved in so many amazing projects on Vancouver Island, as well as internationally. Frankly, I'm only scratching the surface of this man's creative prowess. When we spoke, Dave was having a killer weekend of shows in Nanaimo with his creative partner in crime, Valentina Cardinalli, as well as getting the final details in order for his special birthday release of Memories Can Be Injected for his solo project, Hombre Al Agua, Man Overboard. It is my delight to share this wonderful chat and showcase of Dave's new album on the show only one day after his birthday and its release.
So yeah, I'm Dave Reed, and how would I describe myself? I don't know. I do all kinds of different things. I'm a musician. I'm a music industry guy. I have promoted stuff. Do a lot of events, and yeah, I love my cat Sebastian, who may make an appearance too.
Oh, goody! I hope we get to see
there you
Sebastian.
go.
Yeah, of course. Always bring in the cat Sebastian. Okay, so
he's a free man. He doesn't wear a collar. He refuses to wear a collar. So he's,
is he a roamer?
He's that guy.
Does he know the neighbors?
No, he doesn't go outside. He doesn't wear a collar. So it's illegal. So we don't do that. We said, fine, it's your call, bud. We have other cats that go outside. They wear collars. What can you do?
He's an anarchist.
But he's a free guy. I admire him for his tenacity to that.
Well, I hope Sebastian makes an appearance.
I hope he does, of course, too.
On his own free will, right?
Yeah, it's the only way it's going to happen.
Yeah. The true anarchist cat. It's the only way it's going to work.
So that's me.
Thank you so much, Dave, for chatting with me today. This is really awesome. But let's dive right into it. You're a music industry veteran and a lead in a great deal of compelling and active projects. Let's talk about these and how they're connected and yet separated. I don't know. I often find there's a thematic element and there's a vibe element that weaves its way through a lot of the sound and art that you create. And then, of course, being a record label owner, and then I noticed this new thing, vinyl record guru, you've got a connection going on with everything. But how is it connected? How is it unconnected? Where am I making an assumption? Where should,
Well, it's all definitely connected. I've been a music lover since birth, probably. I just always gravitated towards music. It always moved me. And just seeing musicians playing, like seeing the Monkees, for example, on TV and hearing the Beatles and stuff is like, that looks so awesome. And those guys are having so much fun. And why would you do anything else? And so I just always wanted to do it. So me and some neighbors picked up tennis rackets when we were 6 years old, kind of thing. And that gravitated to one by one people getting guitars and drums and basses and stuff. And so just started actually playing pretty young, I guess, at 12. That love of music took me there, but it also took me down to the record store. And I grew up in Toronto, and there were so many good record stores, in Toronto in the 80s when I was growing up there, that it was just mind-boggling. And the new music was coming out and they were getting it. There was a store called The Record Peddler, and they just got the coolest new stuff, like as soon as it came out. And so I grew to love that kind of stuff and records and being a record collector. Of course, to pay for records, you have to get a job. And so in addition to delivering pizza, which I was pretty good at, I also started working in record warehouses, record stores, anything I could do. Like I worked at distributors, and anything I could do to get into music. So that's kind of what I've always done. I've always worked in the music business my whole life. So I worked at labels, I worked record stores, I worked at a record pressing plant, and that's how I got to do my own business, which is Vinyl Record Guru, which I still do. I just help people get records made. I have a lot of label clients and stuff. So I'm very busy doing that. And then, yeah, it's really all tied together. So I always have played and, self-releasing music since the 80s also, from very early on. Yeah, it's all definitely connected.
Yeah, I totally get that vibe. I guess I was trying to make like a space specifically to like showcase all of your talents because holy crow, they are vast and they're all encompassing, but they're definitely all connected in a really beautiful way. Um, okay, I do want to. I think I'm sort of skirting off the topic here, or maybe I actually am staying on topic here, but um, a lot of the music that you do create that I'm familiar with now, and especially with my own introduction being Moths and Locusts to you, there's a lot of topics of philosophy and esotericism, while also channeling a sci-fi vibe. There's always a sci-fi element. And I was wondering how these topics relate and interconnect for you when you're creating your music.
Again, science fiction for me and for probably most of the musicians that I play with. Science fiction is another sort of beloved art form. I think it helps us be able to see, speculate on the future and see things that we do want to do and that we don't want to do. So it definitely helps philosophically that way. And the themes are always so cool. There's other cool themes for music, but yeah, I just love the sci-fi. I love the way the artwork goes with it. The cosmic themes keeps you wondering, the great unknown. I love that kind of stuff. Mysteries of the universe. Yeah. So just always seems to be a bit of a theme.
Sweet. So as I mentioned before, my first introduction to you was through Moths and Locusts, and that will always be a wonderful, memorable interview and just like live performance that I got to have on the show way back when. And there's like so many, there's other things that have developed since Moths and Locusts. Excuse me if I'm actually not getting the chronological order correct here, but I know Moths and Locusts in my mind I associate with being like the first thing, then later Anunnaki, and then
Correct.
now the development of Hombre Al Agua. Excuse my mispronunciation. My Spanish is terrible.
Yeah. Well, El Hombre is actually something that I brought back from things that I did in the 90s. I didn't really put too much out, but I did do a lot of electronic music with other people under different names, like Carlito Verde and the Fantastic Four. And we put out records, and I was involved with a bunch of other people. When I lived in New York City from 1995 to 2005. So it's not as easy to jam with a loud rock band there. You actually have to rent by the hour, like a rehearsal studio. And I did a bunch of that. But when our drummer in this one particular project left and another guy came in with a drum machine and a turntable, I was like, oh, this is amazing. So we just started jamming at people's apartments. And I was getting more into spacey guitar, and these guys were sequencing stuff. So no, El Hombre, I started it back then, and it was always with the mindset that it was going to be as truly solo as I could possibly do it, trying to do as much as possible. And so when I really started doing more of that stuff, so yeah, you're correct. I started producing more as El Hombre after Anunnaki, which came after Moths and Locusts. And this is all my recent stuff since I moved out to Vancouver Island in 2005.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because when I do associate, like when I think of you and I think about the tunes that you do and all of the different work you're up to, I really think of Nanaimo. And I think of the vibrancy of Nanaimo and how you have really made it, perhaps from my, cloistered Victoria person view, you made it a very awesome and vibrant place. But do you want to speak to a little bit of like what drew you to Vancouver Island and specifically Nanaimo and, how the music scene perhaps is different from Victoria?
When I moved out here, I didn't really know anybody. We have some family here, so I knew them. And my parents had moved to Victoria and from Toronto. So that's kind of what drew us out here, was wanting to get out of the US, because this was like the time of George Bush, and we kind of saw the writing on the wall and just wanted to get out of the rat race too. It's a lot of energy down there. It's fantastic. But, having grown up in a city also, it's like, just wanted to come out to paradise, and that's Vancouver Island for sure. I love it here. And yeah, we landed in Nanaimo and started raising our son and getting our business going. And painting the walls in our house and doing all that kind of stuff, just kind of setting up life. And yeah, I met some musicians. I joined this band called the Happies, that had, led by a legendary character, Marshall Hopkins up here. He's done so much great stuff for the scene. And through that, I just kind of was introduced to some other people doing some other cool stuff. And like we used to rehearse at this place called the Ann Lone, which some other great folks, Bob and Rose, were running. And, it's where the underground stuff happened. And so I just slowly started getting, we got ourselves into the scene here. And it just kind of flowered and grew. There's a whole bunch of key players here, people doing just amazing stuff. I'll mention some names later for sure. I'll do a roll call. So yeah, with all that happening, and the Happies also featured Mike from Moths Locusts and some other great people. And yeah, with that, and then I met through other channels, Dave and Angus from Moths Locusts. And so we just kind of put this little group together of some, Friday night jams, and we all drank a shitload back then, and smoked a lot of weed, like way more than now. But well, for some, let's just say. But yeah, so that just went from, I don't know, it just kind of grew and developed, and we started writing songs and then booking shows. Actually, Marshall, who I mentioned, booked some crazy show with like 30 acts or whatever, and that was our first ever show. And we met some other folks, Pete and his dear wife Heidi, who's no longer with us. Eventually, all of the band Awkward AC from out here, punk band, and they started hosting some stuff down at their place in Yellow Point. And then Crace Mountain started, with the Bash Brothers involved in that. And oh, here's Sebastian. Say hi. There he is.
Oh my
Got
gosh.
caught, buddy.
So nice to meet you, Sebastian. Holy crow.
But yeah, so I mean, Crace Mountain was a huge sort of leap forward, because it didn't get shut down by the cops. And yeah, it just, everybody who ever booked anything in there did such a great job. And just bringing, that was like the magnet for the bands touring across the country and up from the States and elsewhere. And of course, all the locals started playing there too. And Nanaimo is so great because, as I mentioned earlier, in New York, you had to go rent a rehearsal studio. Well, here are a lot of folks, able to live in a place where, a bunch of people are living together and they have a room where they can jam or they can set up in the living room. And it just is a really fertile environment for creativity. And I see that with a lot of folks. And over the years, of course, the Vault opened almost a decade ago. I think maybe 8 or 9 years. I don't know.
It doesn't feel like it's been like, because I remember hearing about the Vault opening, and it just doesn't feel like it was a decade ago. It's just weird.
Well, it's not a decade. It's probably 8 or 9 years, I think.
It's close.
But close enough. And yeah, we've had 2 crazy years right now. And they, Amanda and Matt down there and the whole crew at the Vault, those guys are absolutely amazing. And they should get like the key to the city for sure, because they really, keep the fire burning and everything.
Beautiful.
It's an amazing place, and everybody who comes through there, ends up, performing there or working there and contributing. And it's amazing, and just such a fantastic establishment here. So yeah, I mean, it's a small scene. Maybe that's kind of what differs it from Victoria, which is a bigger city, and certainly Toronto, where I used to live, where it's like you had a metal scene and a punk scene and an indie scene and a country scene, and everything was big enough to kind of do itself. In Vancouver, that's certainly the way. Whereas up here, it's like, well, I mean, you'd have all kinds of different stuff going on, because everybody's kind of all friends and y'all hang out at the Vault and whatever. So let's put on a show just with friends happening. It's amazing. And since then, over the years, other people have gravitated towards Nanaimo. Mm-hmm. Jeremy and Izzy and Nick from Shearing Pinks moved over here. And yeah, those guys are amazing. and huge contributors to the scene also. Yeah, guys like Will Hills, been around forever. I mean, from Colliding Canyons, you must know them.
Yeah, played with them.
He booked a ton of great stuff at Crace Mountain. I mean, these days, the real kingpin, Brendan Holm, this guy does everything. He'll be at a show doing sound, lights, moving all the gear, playing in 7 bands. He's amazing. Yeah, too many good people. Valentina, of course, doing great stuff. I'm sure I'm forgetting tons of people. There's tons of great people here. I'll just keep rolling as I remember.
Totally. But no, I think you definitely hit the nail on the head, that there's more of like a closeness, and there's a beautiful community vibe going on within the Nanaimo music scene. That's just the impression that I get from it, and I kind of wanted to just like hear it from someone who's actually living it.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely more separate out in Victoria. That's just the way it is. Whatever. However it is what it is, but it doesn't matter. You have yourself, though, done a lot of really cool collaborative projects. And I think one of my favorite things I remember you saying was like, you just got to ask. Like, if you don't ask, you'll never know. And it was in regards to when you were working, you got Damo Suzuki to come out to the island, and he was playing with Moths and Locusts. And he also didn't you guys also work on a collaborative album together too?
Well, we recorded the live show. I absolutely have to give credit to Michael from Logan's and High Arctic and stuff, because he had put them on. He'd put Damo on a bunch of times in Victoria. So I asked Michael, like, how does one go ahead and, contact Damo? And he just sent me Damo's email. I was like, you just email him. I was like, isn't that amazing? And so lo and behold, Damo came out here twice within like a 10-month period. And I heard from him recently, and he's itching to come out again, and if possible. So great. So I mean, Victoria definitely leading the way on that one. And we just figured, why not? He's already out here. Why don't we just bring him up? Yeah. And we've had some hair-raising adventures with Damo. We almost hit a deer bringing him back from Victoria, because we'd meet him down there, and I was driving, and Damo was in the back, and Will was there, and Brendan was there, and our friend Christos was there. And we're driving, and late at night, and it was kind of foggy, and like, there's the deer right there. We saved Damo from martyrdom.
Oh my gosh. No, but that's so cool. I've always appreciated that. I love the collaborative approach that you take on and you do with a lot of your work, and it's obvious. It's cool.
One of the key things for me in my own personal musical aesthetic is improv, and a background in improv. I started side projects in my Toronto bands, even, where it's like, okay, we're jamming and doing the songs and doing some jams, but let's do another thing where we're just jamming. And it was exciting. I had a band in Toronto called Substack, and then we had a side project called the Stoney Curtis Trio. It was originally 3 guys. We just made it up as we went along, and it was awesome, and it felt awesome. And it was so exploratory. It's like, wow, that you can really find your instrument and find your voice by just going for it, rather than trying to just do the chords that you've been doing, and bring that sort of new knowledge back to the songwriting and stuff. And so, I mean, we did a show, Stoney Curtis Trio did a show, and we're waiting outside, having a smoke outside the venue, and the bus pulls up, and a guy gets off with a saxophone case. Like, what kind of sax you got in there? He made us guess. It was a baritone sax. And we said, you want to play? He said, sure. So he just came in and he just played the set with us. And it was dynamite. And we never saw the guy again. He got back on the bus.
That's fantastic.
So that when I moved to New York, I moved down there to be with Valentina. She went to school, and my bands had broken up, and I needed a new adventure, and that certainly was it. And we tried to get, I met some musicians. I knew nobody. I knew Valentina and a few of her actor friends. I knew nobody. And so I put an ad up in Kim's Music in Greenwich Village, and a bunch of other record stores. Just, guitar. I was a guitar player at the time. Guitar player looking for musicians interested in Black Sabbath, Miles Davis, the Beastie Boys, anything. What do you got? Like, and I listed everything I could think of. Hawkwind, Gong, like anything. I'll take anything. Autechra, Boards of Canada, what I'm interested in, anything. And so I got 2 calls, and one thing didn't pan out, and the other thing I met my friend Ty, and that led to he introduced us to some other guys, and we just started jamming, you know, and having fun jams, because we met in these rehearsal studios, you know, once a week or whatever. And then that turned into some projects that were more electronic based, like I said, because we we're jamming in apartments and stuff. And I had a 4-track mini disc recorder, and we'd all just record each guy in there. So we put out a couple records. We had a label there called 8-Track Stereo, and sold a bunch of records to the world techno community, even though it's not really techno. But and then so yeah, always improv. And then so that once I moved out here, those jams that we started having pre Moths and Locusts, it turned into Moths and Locusts pretty fast, and then sort of split off into other jams, including a project called the Cymatics Research Institute. It's always just good to keep like the improv thing going. I find it keeps the music fresh. And so yeah, I mean, this project in Nanaimo, we had the Cymatics Research Institute. All kinds of players were involved at any given time. It evolved outside of Moths and Locusts. It started with Moths members, and then, you know, some left and some came back. And that's who played with Damo both times. And so, yeah, we just kind of kept the improv thing going. Yeah, we just kept it going. And it's a vital thing to making music keep going. I think everybody here is down with that kind of stuff. And a lot of the Victoria heads too, for sure. All those guys are down with improv.
I think that it's really great that you bring up the improv, because that's actually something I was going to ask you a bit later on about, like, you know, what are some things that you use to keep yourself so prolific, to keep yourself like always creative, because it's natural to hit a wall with anything you do, even if you are a very creatively driven person. But I don't even know why I forgot to bring up improv, but that makes total sense. It is like the ultimate in freeing yourself just to feel something and to just be creative openly with a group of people. And yeah, that's brilliant. It's fantastic. Yeah, improvisation is really cool. It does make me think of the Powell River punk jams and how that's just,
which I was involved in, and Valentina was involved with a few shows with that.
Brilliant.
Also, yeah, I mean, of course, Jason asked us to play a couple shows, and of course,
it fits perfectly, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We did some wild shows with them on Quadra Island, and yeah, where did we play? We played a bunch of shows with those guys.
That's great. I just, yeah, there's something really, it ignites me, and it also makes me feel hopeful for free artistic practice, rather than being very restrained and confined to specific categories and specific.
And these days, that's what people need. They need to move. They need to express. They need to get it out there. It can't just be like turned down and in the background, like hush, 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 and all approved by authorities, what music you can see and how you're seated and everything. You need, as a human being, to have that visceral energy, that visceral, like just sensation to get out of your body, you know, as a player, as a dancer, you know, it's art. That's what art is, you know. You need to just, you know, throw the paint at the canvas and, you know, let her rip.
Oh my God, I love that. God, thank you so much for saying that. That's just like, I think I needed to hear that too.
Well, it's my personal philosophy. And I find when I'm stuck on something, I just get a new piece of gear or try and take something out of the closet. It's like, okay, there you go.
That's
inspiration.
True. That's true. Yeah. That's true. Beautiful. Okay. I want to talk about your new and upcoming album coming out though with El Hombre. I also, I do want to ask perhaps a maybe unnecessary and unrelated question, but the last album you released, Pisces Sun, Aquarius Moon, I was wondering, is that also a personal zodiac reference? Perhaps.
It is.
You want to talk about that? Are you okay?
Well, I looked it up, you know. I knew that I'm a Pisces. I'm interested in the zodiac, but I'm not as much of an adept as I would probably like to be. But as I get older, I want to find more time to get into that stuff. But yeah, so I was like, isn't that amazing? Because I've always felt attracted to the water. I was born in Vancouver, but I didn't grow up there. I grew up in Toronto, and I moved to New York, and I sort of basically returned essentially to
the water.
where to the water, and I always felt drawn to it. I used to go to England to see grandparents, and we always went to I just always drawn to it, just something about it. And really, not everybody has that opportunity, to sort of become, to walk into the water, as it were. And we're very fortunate out here. We're surrounded by it.
Yeah.
And it's a magical, I don't know, being on an island is just amazing.
It is.
So yeah, the whole water thing. And then I thought, why did I even call this project El Hombre, man overboard? Like, that's kind of, why did I even do that? I don't know.
Yeah.
I still don't even know. Maybe sometimes that's how I feel, like, what are you going to do if you're overboard? You gotta make it, survival tactic maybe. So I thought, yeah, I don't know. Wow, that's crazy. And Izzy actually from town here, she makes a moon calendar, and we were talking about stuff, and I looked up my my moon sign or whatever. I was like, are you kidding? Like, that's awesome. And that those tapes that I do, those are more like sort of putting out my demos,
Okay, nice.
And when I put a record out, it's the result of that process.
Cool. That's cool. Oh, it was a great album. I loved it. I know I played a bunch of the loops, and I didn't realize until later that actually there were loops that included some of your other stuff that you were working on in other projects that you then reworked, which I thought was a really cool way of taking material that really has an awesome place and you have a hand in, and then taking it into another direction. It's like another way to keep the inspiration going.
To me, gear, I mean, we could do a podcast on gear for sure.
Oh yes,
but
gear sometime.
A looper is always something that I have on hand. There's always one on my pedal board, and I have others. And so I can always have one ready to go. And I love it. So if we're say some of the Anunnaki stuff. I mean, I do a lot of looping in Anunnaki because there's only two of us. And so, both of us kind of, double and triple up on things and kind of octopus out and do as much as we can. So looping is my thing. And so I just like to put a little loop in, and then I can, lay down with Arlen, and he's got his synthesizers going or whatever. And I can just kind of lay down, and then we become the rhythm section to a lead section that we've put down already. And so those loops are always in there. And Moths Locusts, I've put loops in there, like, rather than bring a synthesizer just to play the intro to the one tune, I'll just hit it on the loop pedal. I've done that a couple times. All the projects is always loops. So I decided to do a project where I took my one looper and I recorded all the loops onto my little recorder thing and dumped them. I just listened to all of them because I had, 60 saved or something like that. And I got rid of some and I kept some, but I recorded all of them and I modulated them. And, I ran them through a delay pedal before I put them in here. And so that's the result on that side of the tape of those loops. It's like sort of the ones that I liked that didn't kind of get used on the new album, but that I liked and I want to put out. And the same with the A side. It was some electronic tracks that I had that weren't fitting the album, and I didn't want to keep. I just wanted to put them out. It was it's like I like doing that. I like getting something and putting it out rather than keeping it in the vault for too long. If it's good, I'm like, it's good. It sounds good.
Cool.
So yeah, that was that project. And the wonderful folks at Fuzzed Up and Astro Moon Records in Ireland put that one out. It's great working with other labels too, in addition to my own Noise Agony Mayhem, which I just started to put out our own music. The title, the name is from an old Death Militia flyer. That was my band in the 80s, Toronto heavy metal band.
Sweet.
And so that was sort of we had a noise jam tune. It was just like, and the singer was like, Noise Agony Mayhem, Noise Agony Mayhem. And so we had it on a flyer, and I said, I was involved in reissuing a Death Militia 7-inch 15 years ago, and with No List Records. And so, yeah, I just decided Noise Agony Mayhem was going to be my label thing for that. And then I didn't really have any intention to start a label. It was just kind of like an imprint thing for this 1 7-inch. And then Bash Brothers here in town were going on a tour, and they wanted to have some merch, and they were talking about like these download cards that you could make, that you could plant in the ground, like some compostable download cards. And I said, that sounds cool, but a 7-inch would be amazing. So I decided to sort of help them out with the 7-inch. And so we did that. And then we did one with Ian Blurton from Come On. Did a Come On one, Ian Blurton from Change of Heart and all the other amazing bands, Canadian legend, who we've worked with and admire greatly many times. So then it was like, oh man. And so we had, then we were talking about putting out a Moths Locusts single, because we had done some recording and stuff. And so it's like, oh man, number 4. And so then it sort of, for a while, there'd be bursts of just more of our stuff. So we did a lot of Moths Locusts stuff. I think the next ones were the single, the 12-inch, the Damo record was in there. And then we did some other local stuff, Colliding Canyons, Roberts Hall, Top Men. I'm always game to help the local guys out. It's just an imprint really, but if it solidifies into something, I think that's really cool, where people can now look back. I mean, looking back now, we're working on releases like 92. That's kind of mind blowing.
That's amazing. Right
Well,
on.
like, what are you going to, I know. I mean, it's like, it's just been involved with great stuff. I mean, we did a record with some New York friends that had Ornette Coleman on it.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Like,
wow.
Yeah. I was
Cool.
like, okay, do you want to be involved? Okay.
Sure. Yeah, I'm down. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, you got a great plinthra that's of different artists on the label, and it is just cool to see it growing and just blossoming more and more every single time I check out the Bandcamp. It's very cool.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, it's that's another thing, like managing the Bandcamp.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That's where I'm like, I need to clone myself.
Yeah, that's any of the online presence stuff, it can get to be exhausting doing that.
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm sort of experimenting a little bit again now with like, how about if I don't post so much stuff, but just only post it when it's actually happening? And I find I get the same sort of reaction, which is good.
That's good. Yeah.
It doesn't, it's not less than if I was on there all day, I just don't have time to be on there all day.
No, you gotta be able to go outside, breathe some fresh air.
I would probably sell more records if I was on there all day saying buy now.
True.
But I'm just like, here, buy it, please. And then I'll boot a couple other things and don't forget. But we do pretty good. So we generally, sell out of everything.
Awesome.
So we do.
No, and I've always loved the aesthetic that comes with a lot of the issues of things like the CDs. How do I say this? This will sound cool. CDs are great. Vinyl is the mother of all. But I found that when you have put out CDs, I have been intrigued and interested in getting them, not just so that I could actually play them on a device in my house, but because they actually are appealing and collectible, if that makes sense. There's something about CDs that haven't felt collectible to me for a while, and mainly it's vinyl, it's records that have that vibe, and tapes.
Mhm.
But the way you have, creatively set up these packages and the art associated with it, it's made them a different thing.
Again, yeah, as a collector myself, and I collect CDs aplenty, and I see those deluxe editions out there, whatever. Oh, good. Now I have to buy the whole set, So yeah, I love CDs, but it is about getting something in addition to the CD. Yeah. Because the CD is just a cheap, flimsy thing, and it doesn't have the nostalgic value that a record does. It's all very well documented. Like I've been doing vinyl for a long time for my business, and I worked at a pressing plant. They hired me to be a CD salesman at this place called Europa Disc in around 1999, 2000. I think I was working there, and they had a little record pressing plant, their original one, in the back, and they were going to close that down. Because they just were like, it's too big a headache. And they had invested a lot of money into these CD lines, and that was their bread and butter. And so, yeah, I was selling some CD packages to guys and stuff like that. But I also knew a lot of people from working at some electronic labels in New York that I worked at. I worked at a drum and bass label called Jungle Sky. I worked at a trip hop label called Shadow that had a sort of, more acid jazz / sort of cheesy, smooth jazz vibe. But hey, man, it was my job. I did sales for them. And I worked for an experimental label called Caipirinha also down there. So I knew people doing electronic music who were making records.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had an in, I worked at the plant. I'm a sales guy. I could cut you a deal, blah, blah, blah. It was great. And then I brought so much work in that they were loving the record department, but they were taking all the money to pay their debts for the CD department. But I really learned how to make records there. I managed the department. I managed all the guys. I didn't actually run the press, hilariously enough. I'm always been more of like in the administrative end of things, but I knew what could go wrong and whatever. So did my part to help bring vinyl back in those days for sure. I left there. I went to the famous mastering facility, Masterdisc, and that's where I started the idea of Vinyl Record Guru, and I worked through Masterdisc there. So their clients and my clients, we would get the records pressed for them. Cool. And then when we moved out here, I still did work with Masterdisc, and the boss over there at the time, Doug Levine, said, you know what, you're awesome. Go ahead and run with it. Do it yourself. You don't need me. And so that was kind of the vote of confidence to get the ball rolling for my own business. So very in tune with packaging and whatever, and what can be done. And most importantly, what can be done relatively inexpensively if you do it yourself, which of course, the DIY mantra, it's almost become a slogan now, but really it means do it yourself.
Yeah,
just
it does.
Just do it yourself. Like Twink's famous, just do it. It's like, there you go. With the CDs, several years ago, we were lucky. Arlen from Anunnaki hit me to a CD burner, like a pro quality CD burner that was for sale that could do like 50 at a time, like just run them off fast. So I bought that, and we've used that for tons of our stuff and for some client stuff too.
Cool.
And some friends, lots of friends do CDs through that thing too. So we bought an embosser. Like I just tell everybody, just look online. You can buy an embosser. It's not expensive. We got the Noise Agony Mayhem logo, and we just embossed the sleeves, and we put little photo cards in there, little posters or whatnot. It just makes it more fun. And like you say, it makes it become more of a collectible, and hence someone who normally wouldn't just buy the CD with nothing would be like, oh yeah, I bought it for the poster,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to listen to it on Bandcamp, but I bought it for the poster, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's neat about it. And I can see how your background would definitely influence, not influence sounds weird, but would give you the experience and then the ability to synthesize your own way to really, make a CD seem appealing when maybe there isn't quite the same market for it at this point. And it works really great. It's cool.
There's been a handful of times where I do let someone else handle stuff, and by and large it turns out great. But I like doing it myself.
Yeah.
And Valentina, I got to give major credit, who does a ton of the packaging and stuff also. And she should have her own interview in her own right, to be honest. But,
that reminds me, you guys are actually doing a new project together. Is that one Galactic Butterfly?
Well, Galactic Butterfly is the project that we did that's more electronic.
Okay.
And we decided that we were going to keep that name for if we do that kind of stuff. And so the new project we have, which is more appropriate to what we're doing, it's called Caveman and the Banshee, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's me beating the shit out of my bass. We have a drum machine, which is amazing. And we have a lot of drum machines, but we have one that's like a pedal. And so that's kind of our, now we jam all the time because the drummer's always there. And Valentina is an amazing vocalist. And I've never seen anybody scream so hard into a microphone and then just still talk perfectly after. Like, man, like I go hoarse when I'm ordering off of the menu, so I don't sing or anything like that. If I sang, I would be destroyed for a month after one song. But she has the training and the technique to be able to do that. So we've lived together for a long time, and we've been married for a long time, and we've done a lot of stuff together. And especially with the COVID thing, where maybe other projects, Anunnaki kept going throughout. COVID, because that's only, one other person. So it kind of fit within the whole bubble thing that they were giving us. And but Valentina's here all the time. And so we started a couple other things too, including Neanderthal Queen with a couple other friends. Moths Locusts took a couple of hiatuses throughout COVID, and we've been working on a new record over the last several months, which we're working. We're just making it super mint. So no end game or anything yet on that one. But we just want to, Val and I just wanted to kick some ass. And so, so we decided it was a more appropriate name. Val came up with it.
Ah, that's great.
And it's perfect.
Yeah.
And so yesterday was our Nanaimo debut, and it went over very well. So we're stoked, and stoked to do more shows.
Yay, that's fantastic. Should get you guys to come out to Victoria.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, whenever you're having groups on the show, we'd be perfect for that.
Oh yeah, I would love to have you guys.
We'd all love to come down. All of the bands would love to come down.
That'd be fantastic. Work out a thing. Have you guys come and play a show, and then come on the Fiji Mermaid too. That'd be spectacular.
Sounds amazing. Yes, we're down.
So into it. I'm so happy you guys got to have some just, downtime. That's the thing with COVID. I know some people really struggled with it, and there's different things, but other folks had this opportunity, and they were able to really channel some, creative energy into things that they might not have been able to do that normally, because there was a lot of other demands or constraints that existed. So I think it's really wonderful to hear about the different things that people got up to and the way they creatively navigated it. And I love it. I love it that you and Valentina, the pair, the creative couple, came together and got even more creative together.
Yeah, awesome. We're hilarious. I mean, we work from home too, so we're like, neither one of us goes off to work really. We're like, I go to work, I have an office here, but like, we see each other all day, and we go to lunch and do whatever. And it's awesome. It's good to have someone that you can, that we've done a lot of stuff together, and we actually didn't always get along creatively at first. So we did have separate projects early on. Hers were more theatrical. She did a lot of film stuff and acting and some theater and stuff like that.
Cool.
And we did do some performances. So, and then of course, we have our son, Nico. So when he was younger, it's harder for mom to bust out to the jams, but she's always been down for years. I mean, she was on the second Moths Locusts record before she joined the band full time. And took part in lots of cymatic stuff also. And
cool.
At one, she was getting shot at with a paintball gun.
Oh, why?
It was part of the art.
Oh, right on. Okay, I see.
They were shooting paintballs like at this canvas, and there were people standing there getting shot. And she was one of them.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
She took one in the mouth with her mouth open, like her teeth. I was watching. I was like, I could not believe that happened.
Oh no my way. God. Oh my gosh. Ugh, paintball. Ugh, nasty.
Hey, if anybody's get through it and be like, yeah, she's the real trooper. It was awesome. It's awesome playing with her and doing all these projects with her.
Awesome. That's beautiful. Beautiful. You guys are incredible. Awesome duo, doing creative duo. I do want to bring up your upcoming album, your solo album.
Yes.
And because in general, solo wise, you have produced quite a few really cool albums. But as you mentioned before, it was something that, started well in the past. It's just sort of gained a little bit more momentum in the last little while, for different reasons. But you have another one coming out, Memories Can Be Injected, on March 8th, which I'm excited to play in its entirety on my show. Oh my God.
I'm excited for you to play also.
Cool.
I'm proud of the record.
Yeah.
I treat these vinyl records one by one because I don't ever know if I'm going to make another one. I feel fortunate. I made the one to celebrate personally a milestone birthday for myself. And I figured, what the heck? So I put a couple sort of, spacey, droney bass things on it. And I did 67 white label test pressings. And I bought a stamper and I stamped them and made the fold over covers here in town and took a photo and put it as the art insert. I figured that's great. I did it. I made a solo record. And I debated what I was going to call it. I thought maybe I'll do my own name. I thought El Hombre was a pretty good one. I'll just do that. And I was convinced by Val too to do that. So great. And then I booked some studio time at the Chamber with Rob the Viking from Swollen Members, who's got a great studio here who we've worked with on many projects. And I figured, you know what? I just want to record some stuff. Somebody tells me that. Oh, that's another cat. Beatrix is this other one. I won't even try to pick her up.
No, she's not in the mode. Okay, yeah. No.
She's not that kind of cat. Yeah. If she gets up here, it could cause problems with the connection. But yeah, so I went into the studio a few years back and did my second one, which was Oumuamua parts 1 and 2, which I don't know if you know Oumuamua, that was that object that flew through space and then turned on like a 90-degree angle and then sped up out of space. It's well documented.
Yeah.
You know, astrophysicists and, you know, everyone who watches the stars was like, what the heck? Yeah. Exactly. So I was like, I don't know what it was, but it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm going to make a record about that. And so I did these sort of electronic pieces and put it together to make the sort of story of Oumuamua, which I conveniently printed on an insert, the story in Japanese.
Ah, nice.
I auto-translate it to Japanese, so you have to figure it out. But so I was stoked about that and proud about that. And I made 100 of those and they sold quite fast. And so I made another 100. And it's like, oh, wow, great. And then, yeah, I did some tapes since then. I put out and some CDs. And again, I do that stuff more just to be like, I want to put out 30 or 50, usually numbers like that, and give them to friends or pass them out and get them out there.
Yeah.
However, which way, and see if people, how they respond to some of these ideas. Last year, one of the ones I put out was called Zaxxon.
Yeah.
And that one was, I bought a Korg Volca and I started playing with that and things got pretty clubby pretty fast. And I was like, this is awesome. So that one's a little more clubby. And so that was the one that I kind of put together as an album. And I did think about putting it out as a vinyl album. And I even had a master done and everything. But again, it's got more clubby stuff on it, which I love. I love that stuff. But I didn't really want to put it out as an album when Ecodelic Records from Atlanta asked me if I want to do a record, an El Hombre record. I said, okay, but they're more of a psychedelic label and they put out some amazing stuff. They started with a King Gizzard record and they've put out some amazing stuff. Chino Borga from Peru. We're doing a split with him with Anunnaki also.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah, Lamping, perhaps, Empty House, a lot of great stuff coming out through his label. And so I figured, okay. So I sort of rejigged a couple things from a couple tapes. But mostly it was new stuff that I worked on in the last little while, except for one track, which I took from the very early El Hombre days, from the late 90s. I had a track that was only ever on a CDR comp that we had put out. And that's the second track, 1,000 Times No. And I figured, you know what, it sounds great with the other stuff. You can't tell that it's from a different time or anything. I think it fit with the whole sort of, again, science fiction. I treat it more like, not like a statement on the world, you know, dystopian sort of situation, but like a science fiction sort of, you know, thing. And I love like paranoid sci-fi, and we've been watching a lot of like early Cronenberg movies like Stereo and Crimes of the Future and stuff. It's like, oh, this is amazing. And this is the music that I kind of would love to do, like the soundtrack to like some student sci-fi movie kind of thing. And so it has a bit of a theme like that. You know, the title of the album, Memories Can Be Injected, that's from a Wired magazine article.
Oh, sweet.
Headline. You know, so I was like, man, like these are real things that we're just on the brink of. It's not just some science fiction book or show. It's actually real. And so I do have a bit of, I don't know if you want to say technophobia, but a techno fear. I don't know. Is that too extreme? But like a bit of hesitancy, let's just say hesitancy towards how far and how fast technology is like barreling forward. It's a little crazy to me. And so that influences the music too. There's amazing things. I mean, amazing. It's amazing. But I'm old enough to remember, like, man, if you wanted a synthesizer, you had to pay $10,000 for a synthesizer. Like, you're not going to get a synthesizer.
Yeah.
Like Emerson, Lake and Palmer has a synthesizer. Pink Floyd has a synthesizer. Rush has a synthesizer. You're not going to have one unless you spend that kind of money. And now, of course, like, you can buy one for $30, probably a cheap little synthesizer that will sound amazing.
And there's so many people developing their own forms of synthesizers. They're taking things and they're reworking them. I think that's the only thing that makes technology and art if you're hesitant about it and the interaction, I think that's the one way to look at it in a way that's not terrifying, is that it does empower people that normally wouldn't be able to access it to say, hey, I got this idea and I want to do this thing. And now I can. That's the only thing. But then there's like always the dark side to everything. There's always,
Well, the dark side. I'm reading a great book by the French philosopher writer Jacques Ellul. It's called Propaganda.
Oh,
it was
cool.
published in 1962, but it's extremely prescient for today. Where it's like, man, if he's saying in 1962, it's literally everywhere. It is.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're talking now, but of course the undercurrent is there's a new album and whatever. So on our level, it's friends talking about a cool artistic project. But on the grand scheme of things, we're seeing so much all the time. Instagram is great, Twitter is great, Facebook, etc. all have their benefits. But you're seeing a ton of stuff. And again, 40 years ago, it wasn't like that. You had to buy the magazine, you had to turn on the TV, you would see posters and billboards, or listen to the radio, but it all seems kind of naive compared to now, kind of quaint,
Yeah.
I'm a little sort of, maybe gun shy against all technology just going. And I follow a lot of these futurist publications or whatever. And, you'll see some headlines, you just like, I just got to click on this. This is bananas. Yeah. Who's even allowing this,
There's some
Elon Musk is inventing implant things. It was like, well, why is he even allowed to, without some sort of oversight? It's just allowed to go forward. The social media experiment of the last 20 odd years. I mean,
the advertising. There's always a nefarious way with everything, and it depends on if there's any sort of parameters that are around these things that can prevent nefarious things from coming coming to the forefront. But I guess when you're going into like a new world, because technology is all about like innovation and new stuff, you sometimes can't have the foresight to imagine what kind of nefarious things could happen until you're in the thick of it and it's almost too late.
Well, yeah, the cat's out of the bag at that point.
Bingo.
It's like, oops, like, trying to get toothpaste back in the tube. You're not going to be able to do it.
Nope. Oh, it's a brave new world, man. It's a brave new world.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. So sci-fi and that sort of aspect of sci-fi, not wonderment sci-fi and not, cowboys in space, Westerns in space kind of sci-fi, but more like, what's going is sort of, I find that kind of creeping into the music and, combined with the experiments I've been doing personally with like MIDI and combining stuff with MIDI. It's like, oh man, I am building a bit of a robot here that's doing what I want it to do. Yeah. It's a music robot and it's making tracks for me. But oh man, I mean, it's exciting. It's interesting. There's positive and there's negative. So yeah, just trying to put it all in one project.
Oh my gosh, that is a challenge, but it's such an awesome sounding challenge. I love it.
And I mean, I take the cover photo. Obviously, it's just a selfie every time on the albums. I do all the artwork. I did all the mixing and all the stuff. Arlen mastered it for me. And Valentina has a very, very brief vocal cameo on there. Sweet. Almost inadvertent. I was recording some droney bass 6 stuff outside on our deck. on a beauty day to get that outdoor thing. And there's birds and stuff. And I had my recorder. I was like, this is going to be great. But it was just before a Moths and Locust jam. We were having songwriting jam outside. And yeah, Val came out and started talking to someone else who was coming in or singing along. I think she was singing along. That's what she was doing. Yeah, she was singing along. And so then she started talking because she didn't realize I was recording, but she was singing along, and that section was perfect. So
Oh, that's great. I love that. What a wonderful improvisational happen chance. Awesome thing to have happen. Sweet. I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be sick. And I look forward to all the other stuff that you will inevitably come up with. And
well, many thanks for the interview. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me. And I'm dying to come down to Victoria.
Oh, yeah.
Anunnaki and Tremblers of Seven are playing down there. I don't know if it's going to be at Vinyl Envy or if they're getting another space. I don't know exactly, but I know those guys are putting it on.
Sweet.
Details will emerge.
Sweet. And that'll be March? Or is it when
end of March? Sweet. I think. Let's see. I could look at the.
Yeah, sure. That sounds great.
Look at my calendar here. Yeah, and we have we're playing in Nanaimo Tremblers and Anunnaki March 4th, and we're playing in Powell River on March 5th. It's March 26th at or via Vinyl Envy. Again, I'm not sure if it's at, but details will be available through them.
Awesome. That sounds like that's going to be an awesome show. Sweet. And that's just like
it's going to be an awesome show.
On the coattails of getting out your new album too. So that's going to be great. March is going to be awesome.
It's going to be awesome. Yes. Pisces, Sun, Aquarius, Moon in effect.
Woo! Okay.
And we'll have a repress of the first Anunnaki record, hopefully by then too. They're in transit, but still waiting for them to land.
Killer good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This has been awesome.
Happy birthday, Dave. Thank you for chatting with me, sharing your creative insights, improv secrets, and tech terrors. I look forward to seeing you play at Vinyl Envy on March 26th as Anunnaki with Tremblers of Sevens.